Scotland should be able to build ferries here in Scotland to serve the islands of Scotland, to carry the people of Scotland. So why will 7 new CalMac vessels instead be built in Poland?
First Minister.
For the simple reason that there has been a competitive tendering process undertaken to make sure that we can deliver 7 new vessels for some of the smaller routes that are part of the CalMac network, and that process has been undertaken involving companies in Scotland and in other countries consistent with the terms of the procurement legislation that the Government must follow.
Russell Findlay.
These vessels could and indeed should have been built here in Scotland. Ferguson Marine could and should be fit to win these contracts, because for decades before the SNP had anything to do with it, Ferguson built ferries on budget and on time. But now, under the direct control of John Swinney's government, they are unable to compete. So will he tell us, frankly, who is responsible for that?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government intervened when there was a risk that Ferguson's would cease trading on the Clyde, and we arranged for new ownership to take forward the future of the yard. The Government has subsequently taken decisions which have led to significant orders being placed with Ferguson's through a due competitive process in the past, and we have just concluded, we are in the process of concluding the small vessel replacement programme, which is in the 10-day standstill period. So there is little detail I can give to Parliament on that process. But the Government, of course, has supported the work at Ferguson's, most recently with an additional investment of up to £14.2 million in the yard to ensure that we are able to support the yard to guarantee its long-term future.
Russell Findlay.
2 ferries with a £97 million price tag will end up costing taxpayers more than £400 million. And
let's hear Mr Findlay.
At least 7 years late. And this all began with the contract John Swinney personally approved 10 years ago. It was rushed through for one purpose, and that was to promote the interests of the SNP, not the interests of islanders or taxpayers. And the evidence shows that the entire process was rigged and the rules were repeatedly broken. There was not even a bog-standard financial guarantee to protect taxpayers. John Swinney personally signed off on a process that was not just flawed but corrupt. And after 10 years, Ferguson's are still dealing with the fallout. So does John Swinney accept that his actions a decade ago are causing Scottish shipyards to lose contracts to Eastern Europe today?
First Minister.
No, I don't in any way, shape or form. If the Government had not intervened when I took actions in the past, when the yard faced difficulties, there would be employees who would not have had a livelihood for the best part of a decade. Now, I know that doesn't much concern Russell Findlay, because he represents a party that has destroyed the industrial base of Scotland under the awful leadership of the Conservative governments in the United Kingdom. And what this government is about working with the workforce to make sure that we can secure the future of the yard. Now, at the heart of Russell Findlay's question is a complete contradiction, because on the one hand, he's accused the government of rigging a process in the past, and now
let's hear the First Minister, and for those who feel compelled to comment from their seats, I would ask them if they are content that they are adhering to the requirements that they should be adhering to regards their behaviour.
So, on one occasion, the Government is being accused of rigging the process, and now the Government is being accused of not rigging the process to make sure the vessels can go to Ferguson's. I think this just demonstrates that Russell Findlay is scraping the bottom of the barrel of political insults. He does it week on week in this Parliament, and it's a disgrace to the Conservative Party.
Russell Findlay.
No. Sorry, John. We don't want the SNP to fix contracts.
Mr. Findlay, I'm sure, Mr. Findlay, that you know we do not use simply first names in this chamber.
Forgive me. Sorry, First Minister. We don't want the SNP to fix contracts for Ferguson's. We want them to fix Ferguson's so that they can win contracts fairly and squarely. Because Scottish shipyards should be able to build ferries here in Scotland. After nationalisation, the SNP had a duty to get Ferguson's back into a position to win contracts legitimately, and they have failed to do so. Yes. SNP politicians want all the credits when they're grabbing headlines and launching a ferry with painted-on windows, but they never, ever accept responsibility for what's gone wrong. And the First Minister's fingerprints are all over this scandal from the very beginning. He signed off on a dodgy deal that's let down islanders, taxpayers and shipyard workers who face an uncertain future. Scotland was once world-leading in shipbuilding, and now we're losing CalMac ferry contracts to Poland. So how can anyone trust John Swinney to repair the damage at Ferguson's when he caused it in the first place?
First Minister.
So there would not be a Ferguson's yard trading just now if I had not intervened over 10 years ago to try to secure the future of the yard, and I make no apology for doing that over all those years. Now, I want to tell Parliament what Russell Findlay really thinks, because he's not been straight with Parliament about all these questions today. This is what Russell Findlay said before. He called Ferguson Marine a terrible drain on the public finances. He called my government's support recklessly throwing taxpayers' money away. He also, I'm not finished. I'm not finished yet. I'm not finished yet. I've got lots more to share with Parliament today. He said that the non-stop squandering of cash cannot go on. So what we know today is that Russell Findlay has specialised in talking down the yard at Ferguson's. We know that he's come here today to just demonstrate the political opportunism that we hear from him every single week. And we know why he's doing it. We know why he's doing it, because the Conservative Party are being hammered by reform, and Russell Findlay is on his way out with most of his colleagues with him. Thank goodness, and good riddance to the lot of them.